I thought you were doing some housekeeping stuff first.
Oh, if you want me to do some housekeeping, well, welcome everybody to our Tech Tuesday Forum, the very first virtual forum that we are hosting. For those of you that have not attended a Tech Tuesday Forum in the past, they are for innovative manufacturers. We usually host them on the Newmarket campus in our seminar room over nibbles and networking. So if you've got nibbles and you've got something to drink, then feel free to sip away. But at this stage, I will hand over to Professor Shun Shu, who is going to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Claire. Welcome, everybody. It's rather nostalgic moment for me because I think 6 or 7 years ago, I was here doing the presentation myself. So now I'm coming back, and it gives me a great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Yuqian Lu. He is a professor at the Department of Mechanical Engineering, the University of Auckland. He was educated as a mechanical engineer in China, and then completed PhD in manufacturing automation in 2016 here in this department. And he then actually digressed a little bit into software and data science, data engineering side, but of course it's still in manufacturing area. That's because he spotted the big opportunities in manufacturing industry that can benefit from software and data. So much so he spent 4 years in industry, in local industry, after he finished his PhD. So he's been working, he had worked in complex sorting and FriendCAD, looking after design, manufacturing processes, and product development. And he was the product manager for FriendCAD Industry 4.0 product suite, which is called My FriendCAD. I don't know whether he will talk about that. It's one of the first in the sector, cloud-based solution for manufacturing companies. So Yuqian is very passionate about developing need-driven, translatable manufacturing solutions, automation solutions as well. So he's very keen to support New Zealand industry and to be part of this recovery from COVID-19. So with that, hand you over to Yuqian.
Thank you, Shane, for a nice introduction. By the way, I'm not a professor yet, so I'm a lecturer in the Department of Mechanical Engineering here. Hello, everyone. First, I'd like to thank you all for attending this online knowledge sharing. I don't think I'm in a position to really give advice, but more of a form of sharing some observations and knowledge at this particular moment. In particular, some of the observations from myself and my team here on making Kiwi manufacturing industry smarter, in particular after the pandemic. So we've seen that COVID-19 pandemic has caused a lot of severe disruptions to businesses and inevitably our personal lives too. In the meantime, we believe it is catalyst for some long-term changes or opportunities that we all have been discussing or wishing for. So my talk today is really just around how New Zealand manufacturers can stay competitive on the market after the pandemic with assistance of digital technologies. So I'm not talking about at this moment how the pandemic has changed the manufacturing industry and how business are responding. It's more of looking in the future after pandemic, what can we do to stay competitive on the market? So I guess on this topic, there are more suitable people in this room, also organizations that are more suitable to share knowledge. But I think what makes me unique in this space is that I'm working from an academic point of view, looking at research and development in this space. But also I was very fortunate to have heavily involved in the commercial world, taking smart manufacturing software applications to the market. So the thoughts I'm sharing today basically combines my observations of global academic research in this area, but also the local business successes. Yeah. So following the chaotic kind of measurements that different countries have put in place for containing the COVID-19 impact, many business and organizations have also started reflecting the impact of COVID-19 on various industry sectors. Consistently from these reports or surveys, manufacturing industry has been seen as one of the most severely affected industry globally. Okay. It is also well said by Klaus, the executive chairman of World Economic Forum. The pandemic, it represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity for us to really reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. So I think that's really, really important to look into the future, not just looking at what we have to deal with at the moment, but more importantly, if we want to move to the recovery mode, what can we do? Do we want to go back to the old manufacturing industry, or we want to rebuild a better one? So looking at the narrow scope of manufacturing industry, by looking at all sorts of different reports and activities happening, we put together this couple of learnings that we have found globally. One is additive manufacturing works really well for rapid prototyping. So we have seen consistent efforts from many countries looking at using additive manufacturing to quickly prototype respirators or face shields, and then really to test the design and then really quickly move to volume production. Second thing is flexibility. That has been seen very important. So there are successful stories globally that businesses quickly shifted or repurposed their manufacturing systems to really move to PPE production, for example, masks. So it just reminded us how important it is to have flexible automation technologies in place in manufacturing businesses so that you can always ramp up and ramp down at a moment's notice. Also, the social distance that everyone or most people been asked to keep has reminded us the different ways of working effectively in a business. This includes factory operators. Okay, so in the future, will their role be changed with increased level of automation, or how do they do things differently? So we think there are opportunities that they'll be working remotely. Engineers are changing to supervisory roles that controlling and monitoring the self-controlled manufacturing systems. Of course, lots of debates or discussions around bringing manufacturing closer to home. So we're seeing the disruptions to global supply chain network. So you want to keep your manufacturing going, as well as when there's a case that the other side of the world is shutting down, but still want to survive in this critical moment. So these are the consistent learnings that we've collected globally. But looking at manufacturing in New Zealand, I think there are a little bit more challenges or different issues that we have to deal with, we all know about. But before we talk about that, I would like to share one interview that last month Rob Stock had with the managing director of New Zealand Soap Company to really share their knowledge in terms of how they manage their production, bring production back to New Zealand, and how they feel about it. So just wondering, did everyone hear clearly about the interview just now? I have just paused it. Yeah.
Paul and Ewan Sparrow and Gabrielle Simpson from the New Zealand Sock Company. Just tell me why you're optimistic about New Zealand manufacturing in your own company at this time.
Well, I think the opportunities now are immense, Rob, because of what's happening around the world. I think people are now finally realising that New Zealand may pay a little bit more for it, but at the end of the day, it's supporting New Zealand, supporting our local community, and really the dollar will start going around within New Zealand, and I think that's the way it should be.
And tell me, you've actually brought some manufacturing capacity back from overseas. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's been interesting. For a while there, we did a lot of manufacturing in China. We were making all New Zealand merino product in New Zealand, and we were importing cotton sports socks for customers. And then latterly, we made some woolen product in China for one of our customers because we couldn't meet their price point. However, with technology and the new machinery we've just bought from Italy, they're much quicker, and we can actually make a sock in Ashburton for the same price as we land one from China. So that's huge. So we're bringing back a huge amount of production from China to Ashburton.
Which is great, and great for employment as well. Tell me, who are your customers? Because they're some of the biggest names in retail, aren't they?
The biggest names in retail, Kathmandu is our largest customer, and Scallarup, Farmers Trading, and people like that, Swanndri, a whole basket full of brands in New Zealand, and of course we export quite a lot overseas as well.
And there's a lot of innovation going on amongst manufacturers, and you're no different, are you? You just branched out. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, perhaps Gabriel could talk about our mask.
Yeah, so we've developed Ashburton-made merino and neural skin life face mask. So they're dry and comfortable, which is one of the benefits of the merino new yarn technology. They're lightweight and seamless, reusable, so you can just pop them in your pocket, pull them out as you need it. And they're antibacterial, and obviously merino wool in its own right is odour inhibiting and it breathes, but we've used a neural skin life to help inhibit any bacteria growth as well.
Terrific. Tell me a little bit about the backstory about how that came to be. It's to do with your new Italian machinery, isn't it?
Yes, the Italians sort of realised they had to do something to develop the sock machine to the next level, so they produced this mask here, and they sent out a program to us, and within the hour of us having the program, we had it on I had this on my desk, which is quite amazing. It's all one piece. And we say we're engineers rather than sock makers.
And tell me, who's buying it?
Well, so far the large chains are starting to talk about it. However, our online sales have just gone crazy, absolutely crazy. Anything from airlines to seed companies to meatworks, real estate agents are buying them. So really it's going to be, and it's priced accordingly. It's pretty good price.
That's terrific. Look, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So I guess that was a really nice story of making locally in New Zealand, and that made a successful New Zealand sock company. But I guess in the meantime, why that worked is also because that the major market is in New Zealand. So the simple calculations of logistic costs worked out, bringing back the production into New Zealand. But if you look at a New Zealand manufacturing industry in general, from this report here released in 2018, a manufacturing series report released by MBIE, it summarizes really well that we are a small economy, basically distant from the international market. It's generally not possible for us to really compete on price with international competitors. Therefore, New Zealand firms really need to compete through the high quality and reliability of the product, the innovation and creativity in the design, the excellence of the service offering, and to me, more importantly, is the intelligent targeting of valuable niche markets. Because basically in New Zealand business and many successful businesses looking at niche markets that large companies globally, organizations are not willing to compete in, or they cannot care about. To me, there's also some other facts or observations about New Zealand manufacturing industry. One thing is a lack of skilled workforce in New Zealand. Second, a low level of automation, because we lack that kind of volume that drives the automation to really justify the ROI on automation. Third is a higher labor cost compared to China or Vietnam. Lower R&D investment compared to many other OECD countries. So I guess based on the research and the observation that we have been working with local businesses, we believe in the future, there are probably three themes of actions that we really need to think about to keep our businesses competitive on the market. The first focus will be about developing higher value added products. The second is about internal business and manufacturing process automation, in particular for those businesses who produce very specialized engineering solutions or one-off turnkey solutions. And of course, post-COVID, there will be huge demands on asking working arrangements, flexible working arrangements, while remote factory monitoring and control, in particular for people who work in the shop floor. So I would like to share some examples or thoughts from these three aspects. So on higher value added engineering products, I think there are successful stories growing from New Zealand, which we're all proud of. For example, FriendCAD cold form steel construction automation technologies provides end-to-end automation technologies for building prefabricated houses using cold form steel. FriendCAD supplies the design package, the manufacturing systems, and everything else to ensure that a construction company buys this solution can be profitable from day one. And then second, E-Road Solution, which is a high-tech company looking at IoT solutions for tracking vehicle road usage charge for commercial vehicles, in particular for trucks. And also they provide fleet management solutions by tracking the location of different trucks as well as their road usage. Of course, in recent years, there's Robotic Plus, who identifies a very niche market of developing automation solutions for kiwi fruit picking. This was a collaboration between University of Auckland and a couple of other partners. And Compact Sorting Envision, who is also my previous employer, they quite specialize in providing food sorting and packaging pack house solutions. So one of the products as part of the solution is Envision system here. It can basically detect the internal grades, defects of apples, for example, and also they can grade the apple by size, shape, weight, even taste, so that they can grade them into different categories. Some of them can be for exporting markets, some of them may be for just making juice, apple juice. So as you can see, these products are very well designed. Of course, there's Guardian Bensalt. They developed this intelligent product really to keep operators safe. So by having AI technology and computer vision technologies there, once a finger of operator is very close to the danger zone here, then the Bensalt will automatically stop. So I guess different from traditional engineering products, these products provide additional value to businesses by harnessing the data from them, by developing intelligent algorithms or software offerings on top of the solutions, so that you really develop engineering products on top of it. So taking FriendCAD as example, if we look at how things are done, in particular for creating value from the system that we provide to the customer. So FriendCAD provides design packages for designing cold form steel-based buildings. Then they also supply them specialized CNC manufacturing systems for making steel frames. So basically, then their customer operators can basically take these frames from factories, then assemble them on site to become a building very quickly. So different from their competitors, FriendCAD also cares about how their customers use their machinery and software package, because the value offering from FriendCAD is to ensure the business success of their customers. So what they develop is lots of additional add-ons in the cloud. For example, one thing here is to really connect the CNC machine to the cloud by harnessing the data gathered from the CNC controllers. The customer will be able to understand what the CNC machine is working on, how different project is progressing, and what's the best time to schedule to different jobs, so that they provide additional value for their customer to drive the productivity up. So this is the additional service that provided by connecting through IoT technologies as well as data analytics. There's a little video clip here shows what FriendCAD customer can see and can use inside my FriendCAD. So as you can see here in FriendCAD online customer portal, their customer will be able to access all the data about the machineries that they operate from different parts of the world. So you can easily select different machines you want to check, put in the date range, put in type of data you are interested in. Then you can see the near real-time monitoring information of all the machines that you own. And you can see how much you have run over the period of time. You can see the production speed or production efficiency over the time. And of course, you can understand how the different tools are used on the machine so that you can predictively schedule maintenance for your machines. And if the machine goes down, then you can understand why the machine goes down. Is there an improvement opportunity there to better optimize the schedule of the production? So as you can see, this is a pretty unique offering compared to their competitors. Of course, also reflects in the price of the whole solution that FriendCAD offers. So the second thing that I think that's quite important for the future is the flexible manufacturing automation technologies that to really optimize or streamline the design and manufacturing processes for businesses in New Zealand, in particular for SMEs that they take different projects, they want to optimize the internal processes. So one of the companies here we worked with in the past is a large pack house solution provider. So every project is different. How will you able to optimize the production process, the design process, so that you make sure every project bid you give to a customer is a profitable deal? And also for internal business, I mean, there's lots of opportunities for improvement by looking at how people or department communicate. How can you schedule manufacturing processes? So what we did in this case was an end-to-end integration framework and technologies, really to bring all these different stages of project lifecycle together, looking at design, from design to production, how you can integrate them so that manufacturing process can be optimized. And even when you send your field service guys on the road to service solution that you sold to a customer 5 years ago, your technician have all the records about the solution, the pack house in front of you, so they can manage all this service and maintenance correctly. So this is going to be quite unique for New Zealand businesses because there are quite a few businesses like this providing project business turnkey solutions, and that is really needed for productivity gains. Of course, the last thing that I'd like to share is around enjoyable working environment. So manufacturing industry has been seen as a less attractive kind of sector for young people to work in. But I think this is changing because of the technologies that is going to available or are available at the moment for remote monitoring your machinery, your factory, or even control from there. So we developed some technologies in our lab to remote monitor CNC machines and 3D printers. And of course, at a larger scale, you can even monitor and control your factory from remotely. So that's going to be a good opportunity for business to change in terms of attitudes of working in manufacturing sector. So I guess we talked about lots of things here. The real practical thing that we found from working with industry is that people can be quite flooded by all sorts of information available to you, different technologies we talk about every day. But the key thing is really to bring value to your business. So to me, I think the first thing is really to ask why question at upfront, not talking about what you can do or what technologies you can use. It's always about why you do certain things, why certain thing will bring value to your business. Then you talk about how you can achieve that. And last thing is the what piece, what technologies you're going to use to deliver that unique solution. So that's a pretty cool, practical tips that we found quite useful when working with businesses. Of course, there are some summary in terms of how we can move forward. Always start with why, then how, and what, as we just discussed. And the other thing I would like to share is that don't be obsessed with buzzwords because they come and go every day. And really just focus on business opportunities and stuff from there. Also, the 1 to 5 rule there, because that's quite valuable for us whenever that you want to bring an innovative product. Think about that, whether the cost that your customer spends can generate 5 times the value they bring in. And aim big, start small, scale fast. I found that's a very good saying from Canahan Innovation last year in Date Conference. At the very last, I would like to briefly just to share some information about funding opportunities or working with us. So this is a capture of New Zealand R&D funding opportunities, basically provided by New Zealand governments, different initiatives and different level of entry points for businesses like you. I think there's a very good amount of money there if you really want to get involved. There are Canahan Innovation there really actively supporting business growth, and there are funding available to institutes, but really requires an industry partnership. So we are in the process as well, looking at these different fundings. So feel free to search online, just funding opportunities. So just unique about the funding opportunities in smart manufacturing area. I think Canahan provides lots of good funding for business to grow, from R&D tax incentive to get started grants, project grants, and student grants. In particular about student grants, that's a unique opportunity for all of us to work together and really see how you can easily start the journey of digitalizing your manufacturing operations. So how that works is we can provide the students working with your business, looking at R&D initiatives that you have, and Canahan will be able to sponsor scholarship and cost associated with it. At the very last page, I've just shared a very little piece of work from our lab. If you're really interested in the work, there are lots more in our lab in University of Auckland, Laboratory for Industry 4 Smart Manufacturing Systems. We always we have open days for industry partners. And if you are interested, just pop in and then we can show you around. Thank you for your time. Hopefully that was a little bit useful to you. I'm more than happy to take any questions from you. Thank you.
Okay, Shun you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, Yuqian. Thank you for the very interesting and quite insightful talk, I think, with examples from local industry, but also your insight into how business may recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. I guess we're open for questions. Clear? I'm not sure how we can actually...
Okay, I think the easiest will be is that if there are no questions as far as I can see
so far
in the chat function. So if you do want to ask a question, I suggest that you unmute yourself. You can take off, turn your video back on so that we can see you if you like. And you can put your question to Yuqian.
So we'll give a couple of minutes for people to fill questions in. I don't see questions.
No, I don't see anybody posing questions.
Yuqian, I might ask a question of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Could you give us an example of perhaps some current companies that are connected with you in terms of taking advantage of some of this R&D funding that you have and you have?
Yeah, so currently we always have a long-term partnership with some of the companies that we used to work with, and also we're actively developing relationships with new partners. So what that happens, for example, currently at the moment we are developing partnership with business looking at optimizing their internal production planning and scheduling processes. So that can be in the form of PhD student working in a business for example, 20 hours a week, then another 20 hours working in our lab. So we work together on this project. Of course, business will be able to also access additional resources from our lab and additional R&D capabilities. So business fund is, that particular business fund is very interesting, promising kind of collaboration that we can set up. Of course, they can basically get access to funding from Callahan for that. Yeah.
That's great.
So we do have some questions coming through. So I have actually enabled the function that you can unmute yourselves now. So Damon appears not to have a mic or video, but Damon is asking, can you talk about the potential of manufacturing in the housing industry?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting topic. In particular, in New Zealand, in recent years, has becoming quite a hot topic, driven by government initiatives of house initiatives, as well as different big players moving into prefabricated houses. In particular, for example, Fletcher Building last year in South Auckland opened a factory for prefabricated houses. And I'm currently, for example, also working with a colleague in civil engineering, looking at how manufacturing automation can bring productivity to housing. So we visit a company in West Auckland last week. The company is not very big, but what they do is they can basically produce houses, pre-assembly kind of houses in their factory. Then they can put on the truck, then deliver to site and assemble them in 1 week. So from the start of the operation in their factory to delivery the house on site, that only takes 4 weeks compared to a couple of months if you do on-site construction. So from interviewing with the managing director of that company in West Auckland, he believed that the potential of this is huge. Because from the cost perspective for end users, he said, the cost might be a little bit lower, just 2 to 3% from an end user who want to really build a house. But for developers, that's huge because it saves lots of time. Because typically, if you want to get a house built, at least like 6 months on site. But now it's just 1 month. So that's huge. And we see more and more players moving into this sector, bringing manufacturing automation practices to building industry. So I think that's going to be a very interesting and enjoyable journey for New Zealand.
So that company, Yuqian, Stefan is asking the name of that company. Is that just a branch from Fletcher Challenge or Fletcher Building, or a new company?
It's a separate company. Because we signed an NDA with them, probably not properly.
Okay.
Company.
All right. Sorry, Stefan.
So Simon Hall has a question. I've just unmuted you, Simon. Are you still there? Whoops, no, he's muted again.
Sorry, yeah. Here we go. Yeah, so my question, I guess, was around actually manufacturing the manufacturing equipment. Do you see that perhaps manufacturing processes might sort of become more automated or more mechanized, because some of these places sort of might end up with fewer staff because they're trying to keep them all a bit more distant, or something like that?
I guess inevitably, when manufacturing automation technologies matures, or in particular in a New Zealand context, that I don't think we're going to see more and more kind of laborless factories in New Zealand, because simply we don't have that kind of volume that supports the ROI on investing in automation. I think in New Zealand, what's going to happen largely would be gradual adoption of more collaborative automation technologies. For example, you have a blend of people working in the factory, but as well as in certain areas that you have more automatic process. So I guess that will be driving the role changes for people working in the factory, probably gradually stay away from this labor-intensive work, but more to a supervisory kind of role. Yeah, but I don't think anyone can predict whether people will lose jobs.
Sorry, just follow on this question, Yuqian. You're thinking of having robot working with workers. Well, does that robot replace people then? Then we have less requirement of workers in the factory.
Yeah, I guess in certain areas that had to be the case, right? You basically, old jobs can disappear, but inevitably they'll also create newer jobs. Just looking at Apple, for example, when they developed the iPhone, they hugely created lots of new jobs as software app developers, but those kind of never existed before. So I'm sure that there will be newer jobs coming up because of different changes on the shop floor.
Okay.
So we've got Jim Johnson who would like to ask a question.
Thanks, Claire. Hi, Yuqian. Thanks for that presentation. Very interesting. I'm just curious from a New Zealand perspective about the uptake of this approach of technology from, say, small or, well, new startup companies right through to the much more established companies. Have you got any comment on that, where you really see the future from a New Zealand perspective?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Jim. I guess I don't have any first-hand information that really back up any thoughts I could have on this, because I have never worked with a large amount of businesses in New Zealand. I must have to have those information. I guess in general, that's a natural process where people look for productivity, so that they're willing to look at new technologies, for example. They feel the market demands or competitive threats from the market, so that force them to look for new solutions with new technologies. But again, all of that coming back to, sorry.
I was just saying that was like it was in the example of their socks, where they needed to be competitive.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I guess everything comes to the end is the business decision, whether the decision that newer technology will bring you an advantage or not. So that will drive everything else, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really more wondering from the startup whether it's sort of, I guess it depends on clearly what the products are, but that would be an example to get that in at square one rather than retrofitting something later on.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.